trust that Weekend Politics would ensure that we give you updated information, views, and news cutting across the political spectrum of our dear state and Nigeria. Now, we'll go straight to bringing on our guests for the show. I have seated by my side the special advisor to the governor on budget, Mr. Otu Ita. SA, so good to have you join us. Good afternoon and welcome to Weekend Politics.
Good evening, Mr. Joe.
Yeah.
Good evening, viewers.
Now, on the 29th of December last year, His Excellency the Governor of Cross River State had signed the budget into law. And barely about 16 days, I would like us to look at the budget, the appropriation bill for 2024. Now, but let's start with the title of the budget, the People's First Budget. SA, you will agree with me that in the last 8 years, Cross River State has seen humongous names attached to a budget. So, but let's look at the People's First Budget. Why do you think His Excellency decided to go, with that title in that direction?
Basically, for me, I think governance is about the people. And for Senator Basutu, the governor of Cross River State, is interested in serving the people. So his mantra has always been that of the people first. And when it came to the budget provision, his first full budget, the governor felt that it's important that everything will be toiled up around the people, that all expenditure activities in Cross River State will directly benefit the people of Cross River State.
Okay, now, prior to the signing of this budget, when it was passed into law, let's get to know how was the participation like inputs from key stakeholders as far as budget is concerned.
All right. The duty of budget office is basically to collect estimates from all ministries, department, and agency. Look at these estimates in line with the prevailing market structures like inflation, crude oil price, exchange rate, and also internally the revenues we are able to generate. So budget office had actually had bilateral meetings with all the MDAs to see their line of activities for 2024, which are already in line with the vision of the government of the day. So the budget was prepared based on an action plan around the vision of the present government.
Great. Now, let's look at the title of the budget itself, the People's First Budget, and what does it have to deliver to Cross Riverians?
Okay, the People's First Budget is a 296 billion naira value, and for 2024, this fiscal year, we're looking at taking development to the last miles in Cross River State. When I say the last mile, it means hard to reach area in Cross River State. So for His Excellency in his wisdom and his directive, he has directed that agencies that have activities that are related to people should ensure that these activities get to the last mile. Like in education, we'll be seeing a lot of schools being renovated in our rural communities. In health, we'll be seeing a lot of health facilities. And we have other programs, humanitarian services, that will also be coming up this year.
Okay, now let's quickly look at the funding. So over 200 plus billion naira. Let's look at the funding. How do you intend to fund this budget?
All right. Basically, we have three major sources of funding the 2024 budget. One of the sources from the Federation account that is defined. Whatever come to the Federation account is shared to the 36 states, and for Cross River State, we're hoping that we'll be able to have an inflow of about 76 billion naira in 2024 in this year, and then we'll averagely we're looking at 6 billion naira monthly. And then the other source for funding the 2024 budget is internally generated revenue. And we're looking at our internally generated revenue to contribute about 34 billion naira at about 3 billion naira monthly.
So are we looking at a possibility of borrowings to fund the budget?
No,
Would that be ruled out?
As it stands, there's no way Cross River State can borrow externally because we've already reached our threshold, debt ceiling, so there's no way we'll borrow externally. But I think the government will also devise the ways and means to see how we can fund the budget. But basically, what we're doing is getting our processes right, being very transparent in all our activities. And when we're transparent, we're looking at multilateral organizations coming in to assist the government. And with what the government has done so far, within a few months in office, we've seen the African Development Bank indicating interest to come and assist Cross River State in the area of agriculture. So we're also looking at the World Bank also coming in through one program that is called NGK to assist the government in that regard. In 2024, we're looking at a total of about 100 billion naira from multilateral organization as a grant, not as a grant.
Okay, now sometime around the 8th assembly, we had this concept that crept into the political lexicon of Nigeria, and that was budget padding, where we heard that a lot of ministries, agencies, and departments had padded their budget. Now, the SA budget, you have sat over this budget over and over. Were there some concerns or some fears as regards that concept that crept in about 10 years ago, budget padding in any of the MDAs?
Padding is very alien to Cross River State. There's nothing like padding in our estimates.
Okay.
Something
You're very sure of that, is it?
no,
Great.
nothing like that.
Okay, great. Now let's quickly look at one of the major concerns every budget of the national and sub-national levels is recurrent expenditure. Now, how do we intend to address this?
Yeah, for Cross River State, it's a very sad one because we have a huge indebtedness. Now, our recurrent expenditure is very high beside our salary because we have a debt service of about, I think, 30 billion naira to service in 2024. And when we are looking at 30 billion naira against the total value budget size, that's about 10% of the entire budget size. So you have about 10% alone going into to pay for debt. I think the right word is service.
Debt servicing.
Yeah, to service debts that Cross River State is owing, and that has actually increased recurrent expenditure. And we also, the governor is very determined to pay gratuity, and I think our liability in gratuity is over 40 billion naira as at the last check. And for 2024, the governor had directed that provision of about 28 billion naira be made to see how we can begin to pay gratuity, if not to the entire retirees, but at least to more than half of the persons that the state is owing gratuity.
Okay, now we'd like you to give us a very discrete breakdown of the People's First budget, and also let's get to know which of the sector had the highest allocation.
Okay, basically in Cross River State, in Nigeria, I think all the budgets are tailored along the National Chart of Account, and the National Chart of Account has five sectors. So we have the admin sector, we have the economic sector, we have the regional sector, we have the law and justice, and then the last one is the social sector. In Cross River State 2024 budget, what we have, the economic sector has the highest appropriation. The economic sector has about 104 billion naira, and then general administration, where you also have security concerns, will come in there, has a total size of about 95 billion naira, and then social, where you have Ministry of Health, you have Ministry of Education, and other activities that are related to social protection, has about I think 84 or thereabout billion naira. And then law and justice has a budget of 2 billion and about 8 billion naira.
Now, let's look at if we should bring in the 2023 budget. Is there, at some point, His Excellency the Governor had called for, as a kind of a supplementary and adjustment of that budget. Are we looking at same coming up this way, or with this budget, we are sure that it can fly the entire 2024?
It all depends on inflow, on the revenue we'll be able to generate, and I'm very sure that with all the governor is doing and what his team is also doing, we're very hopeful that we'll be able to raise sufficient, adequate revenue to fund the 2024 budget. But in the case that we surpass our expectation in revenue generation, the budget will likely be revised.
Okay.
But in the case that I know we'll definitely surpass our revenue generation, and if we surpass the revenue generation, then there will be need for also a supplementary budget.
No, I so like the idea of the revenue generation because shortly after this interview, we'll also be having the chairman of the Cross River Internal Revenue Service. And now, back on you, are we envisaging, is your office envisaging any form of pitfalls that this budget might face?
Pitfall is a good English one. Please not say it well. Understand.
What are the challenges you feel that this budget might likely face?
Okay, for now we're not because I think the government is properly constituted. That's the beauty of the present government that we have. We have people who are very serious-minded in charge of ministries, department, and agency, and with the weekly executive council, where every member of the state executive council is expected to brief council on their achievement. Then I don't think that the budget will face any challenge in terms of implementation and performance. Not at all.
Okay, now let's quickly look at that takes us to the next one, which is the budget performance. How do we intend to track that?
It all boils down to transparency. If you have an expenditure activities and then money is being released to the ministry. Okay, let me set a typical example. Okay, we're renovating a school, Japan, and government has released money for the renovation of this school. There are other related services that are empowered by enabling laws to monitor, to first verify this project and also monitor this project. And before you embark on any project, if it's a construction project, there should be a bill of engineering measurement or a bill of quantity. So those that are charged with the responsibility of monitoring and supervising this job will now do their supervision based on this bill of quantity or bill of engineering measurement.
Okay, now let's quickly get to this budget is for the people. And like you said, the economic sector has a larger chunk of it. What is the assurances that indeed every Cross Riverian would enjoy the benefit of democracy coming through the people's first budget?
Okay, if you had listened to the governor when he was signing the appropriation bill into law, the governor was very, very specific when he said that he had presented the 2024 estimates to the House of Assembly and there was need for inclusion, there was need for equity, and because of that reason, the governor immediately directed Budget Office to send a letter to the House of Assembly requesting that adequate provision be made to people living with disability. And besides people living with disability, the governor had looked at nutrition, at adequate provision be made for nutrition programs and nutrition activity. And then the governor also looked at social protection because these are things that affects our people and make sufficient provision that Budget Office should liaise with the House of Assembly to ensure that enough allocation and appropriation is made for social protection. Basically, I think this budget will impact directly on our people.
Okay, now I equally have the speech of His Excellency here with me. He said, and that was on paragraph 3, he said, this administration is committed to prudent spending, effective governance, and unwavering dedication to the welfare of our people. Now, my concern is the prudent spending. I'd like you to talk to us. What do you think was the mindset of His Excellency when he used that choice word, prudent spending?
Okay. I think prudent is an English word that simply means that, okay, the money is given to you, you should use that money and there should be value for money. So the prudent means there must be value for every kobo of Cross River State money.
Let's look at consequences for those that would not perform, would not carry out their, the needful in terms of this budget execution. Now, those that they have the budget on their table, they have certain allocations to them, but they are not doing the biddings of the governor. Are there going to be consequences, or it will be like a free for all?
Okay, working with the present government, I think is a very serious-minded government. It's very important that I make emphasis that the team, they are very serious-minded, and now we don't see the possibility of anyone having someone like Senator Lassiter in charge of the ship that we want to fail. I think everybody's committed to achieving and making sure that the 2024 budget has a good performance.
Maese, let's get your concluding thoughts on this before we bring this segment to an end.
For me, I think Cross River State is our state, and the government is committed to changing the narrative. When I say changing the narrative, the government is interested in carrying out expenditure activities that will directly benefit the people of Cross River State. And it's important that I also mention that the Cross River State does not have all the money, but the government is doing so much in terms of improving our revenue generation. And I want to commend the Internal Revenue Service because before May 29 of 2023, I know our inflow from internal sources was less than ₦1 billion, but as at the last check, we've seen an improvement and to the tune of about 2 billion. I think the last check was about 2.5. We want to encourage our people that the only way government can be able to provide all the services that we want of the people is for us to pay our taxes and then also criticize the government constructively because we do not know, those of us who are in government do not know, we need our people to correct us at all times. We need our people to support us at all times. Thank you.
Right, you see, this is a political show, and just about 48 hours ago, His Excellency had a resounding victory at the Supreme Court. Let's get your words for him.
I think all I can say is congratulations to Your Excellency.
Otu Ita is the special advisor to the governor on budget. Thank you for your explicit views on the 2024 People's First Budget. We hope to bring you some more on the show as the budget implementation goes on to give us shed more light on it.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you.
So we had a great time there talking with the special advisor budget, Mr. Otu Ita, and indeed Cross Riverians. We are in for something very serious and great with the People's First Budget. We'll take a very short break, and when we are back, we're hosting the chairman of the Cross River Internal Revenue Service. He has a few questions to answer as regards how we would generate revenue for the funding of the budget. Stay with us. Weekend Politics returns shortly. Stay.